It is Tuesday, the 22nd day of February 2022. Hello there and welcome to News Tonight. And let's first of all have our top stories.
Brought to you by
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Stories tonight. LRA war victims assured of sustainable peace. Parliament's Rules Committee starts to investigate Mityana Municipality MP Francis Zake. Old taxi park unrest, KCCA clarifies on ownership. And some legislators want implementation of parish development model halted.
Was brought to you by Everywhere you go, MTN.
Hello there and welcome once again. We are coming to you live online and on air from Broadcast House here on Nile Avenue. Elizabeth Nakakoni is on sign language and I am Rukidi Edward Kiijanangoma. We begin in Lira, where through the Prime Minister Robin Anabanja, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has assured the LRA war victims and the people of Lango of a sustainable peace in the country while handing over a donation of 30 million shillings to boost economic activities. In his message at Barlonyo Memorial Prayer in Lira, Mr. Museveni said the NRM government will work hard for the maintenance of peace as a way of facilitating development. Eddie Olwa with more.
About 5:30 in the evening, the LRA rebels attacked innocent civilians at Barlonyo IDP camp that had over 5,000 people, burnt the camp and massacred over 300.
And those two groups start killing the people who are in the camp by putting fire in the earth who are there, and when you try to escape, you abduct you and cut you with the panga and grabs you and threw you in the fire, then you burnt there.
Moses Ogwang, a survivor of the attack and the chairperson massacre site, says President Museveni then promised to compensate the victims' families, but none of them has yet received a coin.
But for us, we are still waiting, because that is the promise from the government side.
We are here, we are being surrounded by 3 churches, and even His Excellency pledged to support, like we want it to be to the standard of Namugongo. See, so this is the Namugongo of Lango. You can compare it to the Namugongo of Kampala, so there's a big difference.
This place should be a historical site, a tourism destination, just like in Germany. I was in Germany where the Jews were killed inside Germany, but they have put commemorations there.
During a memorial prayer held at the massacre site in Ogur Sub-County, Lira District, the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robin Anabanja, who was representing the President, assured all the victims' families of a sustainable peace in the country.
Government will continue to work for maintenance of peace in the whole of Uganda and also put the necessary infrastructure in place as a way of facilitating the country's development.
The Prime Minister called upon the church leaders to unify Ugandans and asked the young people to desist from reckless behaviors that will ruin their future.
You should refrain from abuse of drugs, alcoholism, smoking, sexual promiscuity, etc. These endanger your lives and put you at the risk of many incurable diseases and complications.
She also handed over the President's donation of 30 million to the victims' families to boost their economic activities. Every year, a memorial prayer is held at Barlonyo Memorial Site in Lira District to pray for the souls of the over 300 civilians who were massacred by the LRA rebels in 2004. Eddie Olwa, UBC News.
Now, a section of members of Parliament want government to halt the implementation of the parish development model until the public is well prepared on how it will work. The legislators say there are pending queries on policy, mindset and qualification of the local council officials at parish level that are meant to manage the funds. The concerns were raised during the food and nutrition training by a non-state actor, Action Against Hunger, at Imperial Resort Hotel in Entebbe. Philip Aguta reports.
A hotel room at Imperial Resort Hotel in Entebbe turned rowdy with the arguments from members of Parliament of the Food and Nutrition Committee as they questioned the commissioner from the Ministry of Local Government over the parish development model.
I want to know the people who came up with this, the PDM, how thorough was their research to come up with this parish development model?
The MPs said the public has not been well prepared to effectively receive the parish development model funds.
For example, the money was sent to district accounts some 3 or so months. The money is laying idle on those accounts. Accounting officers are considering pushing it back because recruitment is still going on of parish chiefs, and by the time they get it trained, implementation is likely to hit a snag.
Mioga. There are challenges. The minister is busy chasing around with the people because of recovery issues. They use livelihood. They use web. So the issue is, have they performed well? So everyone has something around their lips. Won't this PDM become the same as those ones that failed and suffered stillbirth?
Others raised the questions over the policy that put in place parish development model, the disparities on the number of villages in a parish, and the qualification of personnel at parish level.
And the second aspect is for government to start implementing programs before we have a policy. The money for older persons started going to the older persons before we got a policy. The policy was 2015. Money started trickling down in 2010. Today, we are implementing the parish development model without a policy. And skilling Uganda was implemented without a policy. So I think we have a problem. How do we commit government money without a policy?
We have some districts, my district for example, I have some counties which have parishes with 21 villages, 16 villages, 14, 22, and they are all going to share the same amount of money with parishes which have 6 villages, 4 villages. How did you come up with this? Who was behind this research?
There are those institutes who have not ever seen any blackboard, and they are going to supervise 100 million. With a gun. I'm very sorry to say so that we.
The commissioner in charge of the local council development says most of the concerns of the MPs will be addressed before the implementation kicks off next financial year.
The Ministry of Gender has already started the training of trainers from local governments, and those ones will be going out to do training and sensitization and mobilization of the communities so that every stakeholder is able to participate in the implementation of this program.
The concerns were raised during the food and nutrition training by a non-state actor, Action Against Hunger, at Imperial Resort Hotel in Entebbe, during which the legislators pledged to come up with a law that will compel the authorities to prioritize nutrition in the country.
And we know members of parliament are very critical given their mandate of budget appropriation, legislation, and oversight function. So we have convened members of parliament from the Alliance of Food Security and Nutrition to train them on the importance of legislating.
Philip Aguta, UBC News in Entebbe.
Thanks, Philip, for that report there, and we'll remain with the parish development model momentarily, where it is said that President Yoweri Museveni will launch this initiative on Saturday, the 26th of February 2022 in Chibuku district, that is in eastern Uganda. Now, the parish development model is a new government initiative for new wealth and employment creation strategy to address financial challenges that are hindering commercial farming and improving incomes and welfare at household level. Vice President Jessica Alupo announced the launch and was sure the strategy to be implemented at parish level will scale down the numbers of financially handicapped Ugandans. Take a watch.
IC materials, manuals, and the Secretariat. This year we are going to provide 17 million, but starting July it will be 100 million per parish. And then this question of the youth fund, the women fund, we still catered for it. There is a quota for the women in the parish model. 30% of all the funds will go to the women. 30% of the funds, the revolving fund, will go to the youth. 10% will go to the persons with disability.
We are now mobilizing the community at parish level to look at development issues holistically. And the parish development model goes beyond the money you are talking about, the 100 million or 17 million. It goes beyond. Because when you look at the pillars, as the Vice President read them, we have 7 pillars: increasing production, productivity, value addition. You are talking about social services. So it is much more broader than some of these interventions we have had in the past.
On the official launch of the parish development model to be held on 26th February 2022, the parish development model is a priority program of government which seeks to increase household incomes and cause sustainable transformation at household level. It is particularly targeting those households which are living in subsistence production, which is referred to as okukolera ekida choka.
Vice President Jessica Alupo ending that report there. State Minister, Kampala Metropolitan Affairs, Kawiye Chofa Togabye, Executive Director, KCCA, Engineer Dorothy Chisaka, and the Lord Mayor, Arias Lukwago, have clarified on the split plots at the old taxi park that left certain stages removed from the park. Juko Ivan gives us more.
To thank all the stakeholders, starting with KCCA, park is opened officially.
However, in less than a month since its operation, there has been running battles over the rightful owner of the property between the claimants and KCCA to have it developed. Recently, businessmen claiming ownership of the plots occupying stages that included Gaba, Monyonyo, Salama, Busoga, Ntinda, Namugongo, Chisasa, among others, ordered the taxis to vacate their plots amidst protection by Uganda police, leaving many taxi operators wondering.
Byonna sali bifuddeko wa wano sinaawo kyapa naye kanso eyakola paaka eno yali badde maliriza ddala okukola bino nero ketuyingiza nga tulaba we twandijjidde.
Tuyinza okuba nga tulina kunenya okusingira ddala abakulembeze abatuli waggulu.
In assurance of their move to own their plots, yesterday taxi operators who tried defying their orders were heavily arrested. The unrest over ownership has left the entire country questioning the fracas. UBC TV has sought more information pertaining the lawful owners of the property in controversies from concerned parties for clarity.
It had a basis on which some developers had to come and take a possession of their property. This came as a result of a court negotiation. Now it was implementing the court order.
The State Minister for Kampala Metropolitan Affairs, Kabuye Chofatogabye, says 13 businessmen own plots in the park despite government's efforts to renovate it.
In principle, there are about 13 plots which was covered around the taxi park. So what was done over the weekend was the people to come and take possession of their plots. Meanwhile, we work on approvals of especially the structures they want to construct, which agreement, again, which our consent saying they should construct temporary structures.
Rothe Chisaka, the Executive Director, KCCA, laments that the city tycoons ran to courts of law over the issue of ownership and an injunction was made.
The issue of the old taxi park is historical. You have to understand it from a historical perspective. The plots way back were given to some property developers. KCCA has the management of the ground, all the ground of the taxi park. And that is the basis upon which KCCA went and renovated the grounds.
However, she says they have asked the businessmen for an extra time of 12 months to amicably settle the matter at hand. Minister Chofatogabye says in the different meetings conducted, they agreed not to hurt any side, leaving the park in the operation and with the owners not losing.
When you invest your money and someone denies you to use your property for 20 years, really, doesn't make cold water. Actually, what we did was to explore a win-win situation in the city.
But Lord Mayor Kampala Salongo Elias Lukwago has regarded all this as null and void, with no legal acts giving permission to state tycoons to destroy the park, which cost the government colossal sums of money to refurbish the facility.
They claim they have an MOU with the government which allows them to occupy the upper space. They are not sanctioned by KCCA. They are not sanctioned by any legislation. They are done by people who are well obsessed with impunity.
He has called for an urgent meeting with the councillors tomorrow to discuss the pressing issue at hand and the way forward. Amwai Vanjuko.
Parliament's Rules Committee has started investigations into allegations against Mityana Municipality Legislator Francis Zake. 4 members of Parliament, including Bardege Layibi Division's Martin Mapenduzi, Busia Municipality's Geoffrey Macho, Buyende Woman Member of Parliament Mary Nakatu, and Jonathan Eboalo kicked off the investigations, as we see in this report.
Honorable Martin Mapenduzi submitted that the words used by Honorable Francis Zake on his Twitter account to attack the Deputy Speaker were unparliamentary and dented the integrity of Parliament.
Concern is not about the statement of the Speaker and how offended the Honorable Zake got after the Speaker made utterances. My concern is that even when you are in the middle of the worst situation, you have to remember that as a member of Parliament, there are avenues provided, and we have to stick to the rule.
I choose Honorable Zake because, one, I must be sure whether it's the one who wrote. But majorly, I just condemned the act of misuse of social media.
Criteria. And however, it makes me feel shame for a honorable member to have such a message given out on social media, that it scares me sometimes to speak as a leader. That's why I begged and complained for such a statement not to be made by any leader further.
The committee members put Mapenduzi to task to prove whether the said account belongs to MP Francis Zake.
A honorable member, that when you base your argument on these accounts, and until thinking so petty.
However, Mapenduzi was quick to conceding that he could not certify whether the account belongs to the accused member, but put it to Zake to deny.
I have no comment about the font size and all that, but what I can tell you that I equally saw this same statement on Twitter. And if you want me to open my phone, I can show it to you.
The chairperson of the committee, Abdu Katuntu, rejected the request by Mapenduzi and his colleagues to recommend for censure of Zake from the position of backbench commissioner. Shamim Naiga, Gloria Gutabinji.
Now, legal team representing city lawyer Hassan Male Mabirizi has asked court to set him free pending the appeal applications he filed in court to defend himself. Mabirizi wants court to quash the decisions and order High Court, including compelling him to pay fine of 300 million shillings.
High Court ruling warned Hassan Male Mabirizi against disrespecting judicial officers to pay 300 million fine. But Judge Musa Sekana ordered Hassan Male Mabirizi's arrest and remand to Chitala government prison for contempt of court. Hassan Male Mabirizi, the convict who was unable to attend court to proceed with his appeal, was represented by counsel Isaac Semakade.
Dignity of the courts cannot exist when citizens do not feel that they are treated with dignity. Citizen Mabirizi applied to court, did everything lawful necessary to inform court that he would challenge the decisions made by Justice Sekana. Justice Sekana continued to make even more decisions without granting citizen Male Mabirizi a right to oppose them.
Semakade informed court that Mabirizi's arrest infringes on his rights.
So many citizens have pending cases against them, pending orders against them. They enjoy liberty. Parliamentarians were told to leave Parliament. They still sit in Parliament because they have court process ongoing.
My Lord, unless we are now saying that people can pick and choose which orders they shall consider valid, an arrest and committal to prison in obedience to that court order is lawful and regular.
Semakade prayed to court to release Mabirizi so that he can defend the cases he filed in court. The Attorney General office was represented by Patricia Mutesi.
Because there is no subsisting court order staying implementation or execution of those orders, by which he now sought, in a manner that is totally incompetent and bad in law, to extend the application of 11 February, which was filed in respect of a notice of appeal challenging a decision of January.
Justice Christopher Madrama set the 25th of February 2022 to deliver his ruling in this matter. In another development, the General Court Martial in Machindi has sentenced Awan Godfrey Tamale and Hassan Sebakachi to 46 years in prison over conviction of murder of Ashraf Atugonza and aggravated robbery of over 30 million from Asman Mayanja.
A1 Tamale Godfrey, on count 1 of aggravated robbery, you are sentenced to 41 years and 5 months imprisonment. On count 2 of murder, you are sentenced to 46 years and 5 months imprisonment.
Godfrey Tamale is convicted of murdering Ashraf Atugonza, while Hassan Sebakachi is convicted of aggravated robbery. Nathan Rebecca, Namamonde Deborah, UBC News.
Uganda has been hailed for effective implementation of the Development Response to Displacement Impacts project in refugee hosting communities. The project, funded by the World Bank and implemented by the Office of the Prime Minister, seeks to address the unmet social, economic and environmental needs in local refugee hosting communities. Samuel Senono gives us more.
Uganda is one of the leading refugee hosting countries in the world, with recent statistics indicating that 1.6 million refugees currently live in Uganda. Many developmental projects have been rolled out by partners in refugee camps across the country, but few have looked into the fate of hosting communities. The Development Response to Displacement Impacts project, a 5-year government project, was specifically designed to fill this void. The project is currently being implemented in 15 districts, and the results are there for all to see. The World Bank implementation team was today meeting with the Ministers of Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees and other officials at the Office of the Prime Minister. The World Bank team was led by the country director Mokami Kariuki, who was elated by the progress reached at so far.
Yes, I think we also are very proud of the Dr. Dip project. The team is always enthusiastically talking about it. And I think also within the World Bank team, we've tried to transfer as much of the knowledge about why is it working in Dr. Dip for them to integrate in other projects, whether they're in refugee host districts or not.
The Lion ministers, on their part, promised to see the project through in all the districts with refugee presence.
Primarily is to ease the life of our people who have received refugees in large numbers, and receiving that number of refugees impact on the services, on the infrastructure, and on their livelihood. So that was the purpose, and that's when the World Bank came in handy to support us. And now, different sectors, because services are different components. So for example, services can be...
This initiative focuses on refugees in the host communities that have experienced negative impacts due to refugee presence. Close to $200 million has so far been injected into this project by the World Bank. Samuel Senono, UBC News.
Members of Parliament from the Democratic Republic of the Congo are in Uganda to discuss bilateral ties between the DRC and Uganda. The Congolese MP's visit to the country will strengthen bilateral relations between Uganda and the DRC. The State Minister for Northern Uganda, Grace Kuyuchwinyi, said Uganda and the DRC bilateral relations reflect a history of close political, economic and social cultural ties.
This responsibility to challenge us as leaders, that we have to replicate this relationship down at the grassroots, because at the grassroots where the borders are is where the real relationship can be experienced.
Pour traquer un ennemi commun, les rebelles de ADF Nalu, eh bien, la présence de troupes ougandaises sur notre sol dans un temps record a connu des succès énormes. La force mutualisée de UPDF et FARDC a traqué l'ennemi et a connu un résultat positif. Un succès que toute la population de la République démocratique du Congo.
Uganda, to boost our trade, but we cannot do that when there is insecurity. The Ugandan borders, right from Busoga to Elegu to the other borders, all are very safe. So the only challenge that we are doing is to make sure that we organize, together with the Republic of Congo, the borders of Congo.
We have relationship that has been disturbed because of insecurity elements. And we want this to be replicated by the local person.
To matters pertaining to the environment now, where environmentalists have taken to the streets of Kampala demanding for implementation of the National Environmental Regulation Act 2020 that requires the private sector to be responsible for collecting the waste they litter. The activists stationed along Ginger Road and Mulago roundabout and later marched to Kiswa Primary School.
At 5 a.m. in the morning, environmentalists stormed Kampala streets, carrying placards, bearing and-plastic messages, cautioning the private sector over the misuse of waste and plastics. Championed by the Worldwide Fund for Nature and the Scouts Association of Uganda, they say enough is enough as the country watches the degradation of the environment.
According to the situation of the environment, you find that these plastics are the cause of most of the infections amongst the people because they contain those small particles which people are breathing in.
But all you take water, be mindful of where you're going to dispose that bottle so that to avoid pollution. It can pollute the environment in very many ways, either land, water.
For 2 hours of street protests, the activists then marched to Kiswa Primary School, where they launched the Rethink Plastic campaign, aimed at sending a directive to the private sector to be responsible for their litter.
As human beings who are endowed with our environment and the planet to live on, we have outstripped the capacity of the planet's resources to regenerate by usage. That is one thing. But on top of that, when we use, we also pollute and contaminate.
Living by example, students and officials from WWF activated a cleaning exercise of the Bugolobi market, showing how plastic waste should be dumped or else ends in water bodies. Katumba Wamala, who championed the campaign, said it is not too late for mindset change of natives to adopt the positive mindset towards the environment.
This campaign aims at keeping Uganda clean, green, and to close the youth employment gap through green growth by planting 60 million trees in Uganda over the next 5 years. We should be able to get that. We are 47 million. How can we fail to plant 60 million? How? If you commit yourself that every month I'll plant 2 trees as an individual, and it's possible.
A tree planting exercise was taken on to mark the Earth Hour celebrations. This is a campaign that has been on for decades, championing climate and environmental drive towards policy awareness and action.
Hemon Ngabo with that report. Now, Uganda Debt Network is concerned about the state of transparency and accountability in the management of resources in Uganda's health sub-program. National health spending as a proportion of total government spending is estimated at 7% in financial year 2021-2022, and the total expenditure per capita is estimated at $36.9 compared to the minimum recommended $86 by the World Health Organization for low-income countries. Wadulu Mark Arnold gives us more.
We suppressed the government of Uganda budget by 40%. Basically, all that money was to go to fight COVID.
Civil society is concerned that Uganda's health sub-program is increasingly becoming donor-dependent, and this could stress the government's ability to address health emergencies, since 93% of its budget allocation caters for recurrent expenditures.
But even this 22 we are talking about in health sector, it is going to not delivery of services, but much of it again is handling issues of salaries and what the wage bill.
We also see other accountability concerns still raised in the Auditor General's report that highlights issues which have adversely affected the performance of the health sub-program, including overpayments and irregular expenditures, for instance, totaling to 920 million shillings for construction works of health center tools in local governments, but also says that about 209 million was made without providing breakdown for work items being certified.
The Auditor General's report for financial year 2019-20 highlighted the major sources of COVID-19 response financing between March 2020 and June 2021 as loans amounting to 4 trillion Ugandan shillings, grants worth 17.98 billion Ugandan shillings, but slow implementation of some programs has affected service delivery and has become expensive.
And therefore, we start struggling as we execute. We get roadblocks because somebody has not cleared them prior, and then the loan delays and we pay extra money. We have agreed no project shall we borrow for money until it is thoroughly studied and all have agreed on how the steps are going to be done.
Civil society recommends government to improve coordination of activities between Ministry of Health, local government, health facilities and district task forces.
So shift the negatory expenditures to productive sectors of the economy. You can also shift them to those sectors that touch the Ugandan, the least Ugandan, like the health department.
As the country addresses COVID-19 pandemic resource needs, government has been asked to step up its effort in mobilizing domestic resources to bridge the funding gap in the health sub-program, with key emphasis on development expenditure. Wadulu Mark Arnold, UBC News.
Now to matters pertaining to the church and the Archbishop of Kampala, His Grace Paul Semogerere, has warned Catholics against the continued attack on their church morals and values. He was at Thekla Formation House on Chadondo Road in Kampala as the Pauline family celebrated the feast of Venerable Sister Thekla Marlow.
COVID-19 has been more destructive to humanity and is an attack on the Roman Catholic Church morals and values. Archbishop Semogerere encouraged Catholics to go against the tide. He pointed out that abortion, torture, robbery and worshipping false goods remain unacceptable to the Roman Catholic Church. He was addressing the Pauline Sisters congregation at Thekla Formation House in Kampala.
This day that we come together to celebrate the mother's birthday and my coming to the city and to visit this place. My family, thank you for their patience.
The Pauline family was celebrating the feast of Venerable Sister Thekla Marlow, as well as congratulating the Archbishop of Kampala upon his installation. The local superior of the Daughters of St. Paul, Sister Bernadette Lutaya Nakagwa, thanked the Lord for Venerable Sister Thekla Marlow, who inspires Pauline family.
She was our first sister among the Daughters of St. Paul, and she worked hard together with our founder, Blessed James Alberioni, for the Pauline family, which consists of 10 institutes. We are happy to have our mother, Thekla Marlow, as our mother and who is interceding for us in heaven. On 5th of January, we celebrated her birthday anniversary into heaven.
The Pauline family is an international family of 10 institutes founded by Blessed Father James Alberion together with Venerable Sister Thekla Marlow. The Pauline family evangelizes using social communication.
MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily bundle of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1,000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150*10# or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN.
MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
National Medical Stores is a government agency mandated to buy, store and distribute medicines and medical supplies to government health facilities in Uganda. For Ugandans that we serve, help us serve you better by taking your individual responsibilities seriously. Report theft of government medicines and medical supplies to the nearest police station or to the State House Health Monitoring Unit. Do not pay for any medicines or medical supplies labeled Government of Uganda, not for sale. Do all that is within your means to stop all preventable diseases, including COVID-19. Continue observing the Ministry of Health Standard Operating Procedures, SOPs, including wearing a face mask whenever you are in public spaces. Visit a designated health facility to receive your COVID-19 vaccination and a booster dose for those that are eligible. Prevention is better than cure. National Medical Stores, passionate about your life.
Start the year off with My Airtel 4G smartphone. You get to enjoy free 1 GB data valid for a month and 100% bonus data every month for 3 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. This includes free data spread over 3 months worth 86,500 Uganda shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 Uganda shillings only. Visit the nearest Airtel shop and get one today. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Raising Voices.
As a teacher, I have the opportunity to shape how children grow and learn. I believe in creating a non-violent school where children feel safe and respected. I promise to lead by example and create a different kind of relationship with my learners, one that helps them grow.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising Voices.
Welcome back from that break, and this is News Tonight here on UBC TV. Let's go to Busoga region now, where Busoga region leaders have been called upon to support investment projects extended to their area with the aim of improving people's standards of living. Deputy Speaker Anita Among made the call through the chairperson Busoga Parliamentary Caucus Edi Sabidie during a groundbreaking of an education center in Iganga district.
Busoga region is one of the regions still lagging behind in education. This is largely attributed to the limited number of schools in the region. To address the challenge of illiteracy levels in the vulnerable Busoga region, a charity organization, A Future for Orphans Uganda, has embarked on a project aimed at uplifting standards of education in Busoga region by setting up an education center. The chairperson Busoga Parliamentary Caucus Edi Sabidie, who represented the Deputy Speaker of Parliament Yanite Amongi, called upon leaders from Busoga region to support developmental projects brought to their area if the region is to develop.
I think this is very important. Busoga as a region has lagged behind in the education sector. We want to call upon all leaders to embrace this project because it is aiming at helping our community, helping our children, especially the orphans. So whoever knows that this project is important, this is the time now to give it a blessing.
Mihai Brashov, an evangelist from Romania, who is also spearheading the construction of the education center, says they are looking forward for more projects in Uganda in order to enhance development.
We believe in education. There is a very nice quote that says, if you want to have results over 1 year, plant rice. If you want results over 10 years, plant a nice tree. But if you want to have results for eternity, educate a kid.
Chief Executive Officer, A Future for Orphans Uganda, John Drobonente, has called upon government to offer citizenship to investors to reduce on transport costs to those willing to invest in the country from the diaspora.
The government can put arrangement of honoring our partners, mostly people who are doing charity in the country. Not those who have come to make money, but those who have come to invest money in changing people's lives in the country. If they can be honored with the citizenship, it will enable our people, our donors, our supporters from all over the world to come and change our world, our country, our community, our homes in Uganda.
The establishment of the education center, once completed, will contain a primary and vocational school, a hospital and church, which will offer free services to the community. I am Mary Namkose in Iganga district.
Civil society organizations are appealing to government to relocate the evicted communities in Kiijanangoma district to other suitable lands and provide fair and adequate compensation for loss of their lands. Now, this follows evictions from government-owned ranches which were handed over to private investors for commercial agri-business.
It is alleged that over 30,000 people have been rendered homeless in Kiijanangoma district due to forceful eviction to pave way for large-scale agribusiness enterprises. According to concerned civil society organizations, the evictions began in 2017 and further escalated in 2020-2021 during the lockdown period caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
These evictions have paved the way for 3 multinational companies to carry out large-scale agribusinesses in this area where the families were forcefully and violently evicted. We would like to call upon the government of Uganda to respect the principles of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995.
Despite the matter coming to government attention, no action has been taken to date.
We have created a class of destitutes coming from these evictions. We have created a situation of hopelessness where people do not have hope, where people have lost trust in the state that is supposed to protect their properties, the state that is supposed to guarantee tenure security, and this is not happening.
The situation has compelled CSOs to call for a robust and quick response from government to address the plight of the families that were displaced from the 9,500 acres of land in Kiijanangoma district.
This must be done. Public declaration of who the lands have been allocated to. 3, immediately allow renegotiation or dialogues between affected communities and multinational companies to resolve grievances arising out of the forced evictions and inadequate compensation, inadequate or prompt compensation.
They appeal to relevant authorities to revisit the land allocations made under the 1995 presidential directive to ensure that all subdivisions of ranches that were made are implemented through the Kiijanangoma District Land Board. Dennis Igoa for UBC News.
To Acholi sub-region now, where leaders there have appealed to government to arm Aru boys so that they can protect the local people from Karimajong warriors. During a security meeting held in Agago district, security leaders from 3rd and 5th divisions of the UPDF learned that the Karimajong raid animals injure and kill people. Let's get more in this report.
Leaders from Agago, Otuke, Kitgum, Karenga, Abim, Kotido and security leaders have held a meeting in Agago district in Acholi sub-region to discuss peaceful coexistence between the Karimajong and neighboring Acholi land. Acholi leaders accused Karimajong of killing, injuring and stealing animals from the Acholi.
Agago, as we start this morning, we realized that since 2019 to date, we have lost 4 people to these Karimajong raiders. 12 people got injured seriously, and some of them they are still in the hospital. About 684 cows, which were stolen up to now, they have not been recovered. 187 goats not recovered.
Analysis, just from January to date, we have lost 10 lives. 10.
The LC5 for Kotido district, Paul Komolote, apologized on behalf of the Karimajong. This was the first initiative to create harmony between the two communities.
The people of Kotido district, I must apologize because the people of Acholi don't come and raid Kotido or to steal animals from Kotido. They don't. The same with Abib.
From Acholi proposed that government arms Arab boys to tackle insecurity.
Our boys so that they can work together with you and to fight this criminality.
Arming these local people who are and training them first, of course. Because some of these things, you cannot have a security person attached to every household. And some of these people know the area very well.
But 3rd Division Commander Brigadier General Joseph Paliko Dembe and 5th Commander Brigadier William Bainomjishan proposed that all animals be put in kraals in Abim district.
We tried to do it in Abim, that Abim admit that you have a problem. We put these cows in the kraals, all these scattered security forces will protect your kraals against the criminals from your neighbors. They refused. We are having a serious... You have not accepted. They have accepted.
Security issues there. To Gombe now, where Bishop Wilberforce Chitiol Lira has thanked Brigadier General Damulira Christopher for his commitment in serving God in Impererwe Parish Church of Uganda, Gombe sub-county. Bishop Lira made these remarks during his pastoral visit to the home of Lira Christopher during a fundraising drive for the parish priest's vehicle.
The Bishop of Namirembe Diocese, Wilberforce Kityo has asked leaders at different levels to transform the lives of people.
Kakali ekkanisa obuvunanyizibwa bwayo ng'enoonya abantu mu kiseera kino oyinza okulooza bangi badduse okujja eri ekkanisa naye njagala okubategeeza bangi badduse okuva eri ekkanisa.
Luwalira was speaking at Kitanda in Gombe sub-county during a fundraising drive for the parish priest car of Mwererwe Parish.
Abaana okuweerera kitegeeza kutwala abaana buddo oba namagunga oba namiryango oba wa kitegeeza kutwala mwana mu ssomero n'asoma. Nze ali mu maaso go nagenda mu masomero ndowooza gasembayo kubaaga awansi olw'embeera yali wano emyaka 5 olutalo wano yali erikota y'olutalo wano.
Pain of raising funds to buy a new vehicle for the parish priest of Mwererwe Parish. First, we would like to thank God for Brigadier General Christopher Lira and his family because they were the leading mobilizers in this campaign today.
In his sermon, Luwalira complimented Brigadier General Lira Christopher for contributing towards Mwererwe Parish.
Person of Brigadier General Lira working in the police force, able to mobilize friends, relatives to come around and say, now we have this challenge, but we can join hands and resources to see that we buy a new vehicle.
Bishop Kityo Lira ending that report there. Now, We Effect in East Africa, a non-governmental organization aimed at strengthening smallholder farmers, especially women, have strengthened farmer-based organizations in Uganda and Kenya to enable them access commercial loans for improved business and services. That is the story that we shall be going to after this break.
Enjoy convenience today with Airtel Money School Pay, FlexiPay, or Bridge Schools. To pay school fees using Airtel Money for Bridge Schools, dial *185#. Select option 6, School Fees. Select option 1, Bridge Schools. Enter pupil ID. Enter the amount. Enter the PIN number to complete payment. Pay school fees conveniently using Airtel Money. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
COVID-19 is still here with us. As Owechitiwa Peter Maiga, the Prime Minister of Buganda, states, let us all take the necessary precautions.
Self-medication is always very dangerous. We should leave medical matters to the medical personnel. It's only a healthy population that can produce wealth. And if you want to work for your well-being, you must care about your health first.
Because of the new COVID-19 circulating variants like Omicron, it is very important for all of us to be fully vaccinated with 2 doses of the same vaccine type. It's only those getting Johnson & Johnson who receive only a single dose to be fully protected.
Even after vaccination, continue to adhere to all SOPs by wearing a mask properly, covering your mouth and nose, washing your hands regularly with soap and clean water, or using an alcohol-based sanitizer, maintaining physical distance of at least 2 meters from others, and avoiding crowds. Echa COVID-19, chija kugwa. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and partners.
Your MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily band of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1,000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150*10# or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN. MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Let's have a look now at what's happening in the world of business. And as we had introduced earlier on, before that break, we effect in East Africa, a non-governmental organization that's aimed at strengthening smallholder farmers, especially women, have strengthened farmer-based organizations in Uganda and Kenya to enable them access commercial loans for improved business and service delivery. Now, this follows a 5-year partnership with Innovative Finance for Improved Livelihood Project, IFIL, Oiko Credit International, and with funding from Swedish International Agency. Sudat K reports.
With focus of strengthening capacity of smallholder farmers to grow their profitable organizations, 19 cooperatives from Uganda are to access loans from the 5-year pilot partnership project.
We have emphasized so much on the northern part of the country, the east, central, and the west, of course. We have partners in West Nile, we have partners in Busoga region, we have picked partners in Acholi, that is Gulu. We have selected partners from Rwenzori, that is Kasese and Wujo areas, basically promoting various value chains that include coffee, cocoa, dairy, beans, maize, and a number of them.
The project is being implemented by the Church of Sweden, Oiko Credit International, and with funding from Swedish International Development Agency. Paul Gumisiriza says farmers are to undergo training before receiving loans to implement their projects.
It's an innovation we are trying to teach to show other partners like banks and buyers that it is possible without security that an organization can borrow money and be able to pay back. So basically, we are achieving access to finance for farmer-based organizations.
Bakingana Scovia, a member of Mount Rwenzori Coffee Cooperative, says there is need to support more women in farming.
These different initiatives of women are supported through this project. Then I want to assure you that in the Rwenzori region, women are going to create a bright future.
Jude Asimwe from Chazanga Farmers Cooperative warned against fake records given by farmers.
Let's talk about how best can we utilize the high prices that we are receiving now. How can we put aside some money for that eventuality, so that when you have challenges tomorrow, you are able to pick some of that money and pay back the loan. Because when you don't pay back the loan, you are affecting other FBOs to access money.
The project combines a loan guarantee facility with capacity building initiatives in a unique way to address lack of access to financial services. Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
Kampala resident City Commissioner Hudu Hussein has issued measures for operations against street vendors and hawkers operating illegally on the streets. Addressing the media at the media center here in Kampala, the RCC emphasized having a clean, secure and developed city.
Following a presidential directive to make Kampala habitable, secure and admirable city, a joint military operations commenced to rid vendors and hawkers off the street.
We all agree that Kampala looks better without street vending.
Kampala RCC Hudu Hussein has further directed eviction of all vendors.
We are now shifting the responsibility of getting the street vendors off the verandas and the streets to the landlords, to the shop owners and managers of buildings, because we've noticed that a section of them connive with some street vendors to be allowed to operate on the verandas.
Shop and arcade owners and business people in the city center must cooperate in keeping vendors away. He has invited all affected vendors to occupy vacant stalls at Usafi.
Masangano Bella ending that report there. Now, owners of old and dilapidated buildings in and around Kampala city have been ordered to maintain sanity in the city. Kampala RCC Hudu Hussein told journalists that the directive is one of the 7 points of action for Kampala city.
Owners of neglected buildings must refurbish them or their licenses will be cancelled. The collective effort by KCCA and the President's office follows an inspection of all buildings operating in the city centre.
Most buildings look dilapidated and almost abandoned. Most of them. These houses host a lot of prospering businesses downtown and accumulate a lot of money from payment of rent, yet the owners have neglected them. These buildings shame our capital city and country. We require that the owners of these buildings paint and or renovate these buildings, or else we shall close them till further notice. And it's a requirement under our laws that the buildings in the city keep to the standard of the city.
In another development, the RCC wants border riders in Kampala Metropolitan to register the division headquarters within 5 months.
We are not going to allow any border rider to operate in the city when they are not registered. We are not going to allow the border riders to operate in the city without an approved reflector jacket. We are not going, all those jackets will have a QR code, and the jackets will be approved by the Ministry of Works and Transport.
The measures are made to curtail theft and abuse of traffic regulations in Kampala metropolitan area. Joshua Kagoro, UBC News.
At least 1,526 employees from 534 organizations have participated in the Best Practices Survey that was aimed at giving employers an opportunity to hear from their employees. In the survey, they assessed their organization and employers' human resource practices and policies. The HR Best Practices Survey 2021 to create a better work-life blend was initiated by Prudential Assurance Uganda. The overall winner was Uganda Breweries Limited.
In terms of those practices, that's where the whole Prudential HR survey comes in. And I strongly believe
1,500 colleagues, friends, brothers and sisters across Uganda gave us their views on how it is that they come to their workplace. We asked all our questions directly to employees across Uganda to get their feedback, and we have learned what we are doing well in the industries as employers and where we need to improve. It's the first step in starting a very meaningful conversation on matters around people, and Prudential is very, very honored and privileged to take the first step in this regard.
The timing of this survey could not be any better. We went into the field in October and November, and this was the time when we were coming out of the second lockdown here in Uganda, having experienced 2 years of a very unprecedented way of living and working. It was also a time where employers and employees were asking themselves a lot of questions about the so-called new normal. What is the new normal? How do we thrive? How do we succeed? How do we achieve our personal objectives as well as employment objectives?
To printing matters now, where Uganda Printers and Packaging Association has appealed to government to reverse the directive which was made by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on two companies, Vision Group and Uganda Printing and Publishing Corporation, UPPC. They fear that the youth are likely to lose jobs at a time when the country is trying to address youth unemployment.
Private companies in printing sector are likely to close business as a result of heavy investment and lack of contracts. Vice Chairman of the Printers and Packaging Association, Peter Mwebembezi, appeals to government to allow them compete in the bidding besides reducing on taxes on imported products. They also want the government to support local investors in printing businesses.
You can call it my appeal to the government if they can do only two things. One, let us compete, whether it is a New Vision, UPPC, MPK, whichever company that is in the printing business, let us all compete.
As a result, they appeal to President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to reverse the directive that is likely to kick them out of business since COVID-19 had also affected.
Kubanga luli tubadde nga tukompitinga bulungi nga New Vision n'amakampuni tukompitinga bwe tumusinga ne tumusinga bwatusinga ne tukkiriza nti tusingiddwa.
What they brought up about UPPC and Vision Group being the only ones to do the MDA job, it is going to affect us in terms of employment. Most of us now, like at Web Media, they employ over 50 people. So, and most of the jobs, the big jobs, come from MDAs. So I cry out to Mama Nabanja to come and help us to this. We as youth, as mothers, we shall be down. So when you give the jobs to only two companies, we shall not be employed anywhere. So we call upon everyone supposed to help us, come and help us.
The association members have big loans from the bank, so he now appeals to the government to give them room for competition.
We can compete favorably in terms of price, in terms of quality of work, because whatever they do, we can do even, some companies can even do better.
I don't know, in regards to this directive, where not all jobs should be given to these two companies, but it should be left fair to all of us, given that we are all taxpayers in this field.
Report compiled by Stephen Kayomba.
And finally, the government is being asked to increase the budget for the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. According to the chairman of National Trade Unions, Wilson Owere, the Ministry of Gender is supposed to fight against perpetrators who use the name of recruitment agencies to extort and take youth to Middle Eastern countries without proper channels. While signing the agreement between National Trade Union, NOTU, with external recruitment agencies, Owere noted that there is need to fight the vice of agencies which are not registered.
One is to thank government for having made a law to enable people who cannot be employed here to find employment elsewhere. And this is through externalization. But also thank the members of UWER for having taken this mantle to support the government by creating space where they can get our people to be employed who cannot get jobs here.
This MOU and partnership, for that matter, gives us an opportunity at the apex to draw from the experiences of NOTU in handling employers on behalf of the workers. We believe this relationship will enable us to widen our scope of influence through availing all stakeholders timely and accurate information about labor externalization in Uganda. With this relationship, our government will be very happy because they will be working with recognizable people, responsible people, because now we are part of a big spectrum of responsible stakeholders.
We want to raise the status of recruitment companies and bring them to a level where we all appreciate the quality of the work that they are doing. We already recognize their importance in helping to get employment opportunities for people, but of course we also recognize that we can still work together to make things even a lot better.
To thank Uwera for coming up and this initiative. 70% of our population are young people. Uganda actually has the youngest population in the world, according to the reports which just recently. So we have to work very hard on this saga. So we are trying our level best to clean up. Now, how do we now collaborate? The collaboration starts today.
Let's have a look now at the weather prospects for tomorrow with Kutesa Mili at the Weather Center in Entebbe.
Thanks for tuning on UBC. My name is Kutesa Mili with your weather update. We are still experiencing dry conditions in most parts of the country and hazy particles across the northern part of our country. And seeing the satellite pictures, we are still having a cyclone over the Indian Ocean known as Eminent, pushing and pulling in most of the moist winds that are supposed to come into our country in combination with the highs over the northern part of our country, pushing in dry, dusty conditions in most parts of our country, bring us the hazy conditions that we're experiencing lately. Though the light sun showers that we're experiencing is due to the local effects, mainly the Lake Victoria. Tomorrow morning, we expect to wake up with sunny intervals in most parts of the country. As in afternoon hours, we expect a pickup of light thunder showers across the eastern stretch towards the Lake Victoria and some parts of the southwestern of our country. But the rest of the country is going to continue with sunny intervals. Temperature is up to 30 degrees of maximum in northern part of our country, 28 across lake shores, including our capital city Kampala, Kampala Highlands with a lowest of 23 degrees Celsius. This moving out of Uganda, touring the cities across the globe, we're forecasting sunny conditions across Dubai and Beijing at a maximum of 25 degrees Celsius across Dubai, and the low temperature is experienced towards Beijing of 6 degrees Celsius only. Nairobi and Cairo with cloudy conditions at a maximum of 28 degrees Celsius across Nairobi and 25 across Cairo. Thanks for tuning on UBC. My name is Kutesa Mili. Stay tuned and see you tomorrow.
And now, before we leave you, let's have a recap of our top stories.
Brought to you by
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
LRA war victims assured of sustainable peace. Parliament's Rules Committee starts to investigate Mityana Municipality MP Francis Zake. Old taxi park unrest, KCCA clarifies on ownership. And some legislators want implementation of parish development model halted.
Was brought to you by Everywhere You Go, MTN.
And that's all we had time for. Thank you so much for having kept us company. Elizabeth Nakakoni has been on sign language, and I am Rukidi Edward Kiijanangoma, wishing you a blessed night.
What do you do when you find children that are drinking lake water? What do you do when you find there's a building but no students? What do you do when you find students seated under a tree because of their need for education? Welcome to the Rotary Moment Show.
Sekabusolo and Buvi are one of the most promising growing villages found in Busiro 1, South Kasanje Town Council in Wakiso District. However, the rapid community growth is as a result of several human activities with more environmental hazards than economic benefits.
This area previously was a forest. The biggest part of it was being covered by a forest, which was helping a great deal in preventing soil erosion, in catching the wind, in contributing towards the soil fertility. That is, when the leaves drop, they erode, and when they erode, they make the soil to be fertile. The trees have all been cut down, and we are lacking the trees right now. Why were they cut? Because people want to get some income out of those trees, burning the charcoal, taking the firewood, and some other things like that.
Located along the shores of Lake Victoria, it is said that these areas are the most leading sellers of firewood and charcoal on the shores.
Obuzibu bwe tusanga mu